Welcome to this explainer. Think about your morning routine just for a second. You wake up, you stumble into the bathroom, and you look in the mirror. It's this totally everyday occurrence that seems, incredibly simple. We literally do it without a second thought. But hidden inside that flat, everyday piece of glass is a deep, totally mind-bending mystery that has actually puzzled people for centuries. I mean, we rely on mirrors to tell us how we look, right? But the way they reflect our world involves this absolutely fascinating intersection of hard physics and human psychology.
So the legendary physicist Richard Feynman used to talk about this classic puzzle. It's actually one they would give to new fraternity members at MIT just to test their imaginations. Here's the setup. When you look in the mirror, the top of your head stays right at the top, and your feet stay firmly at the bottom, but somehow your left and right seem completely swapped. Like if you part your hair on the right, your reflection's hair is suddenly parted on the left. So what's going on? How in the world does a completely inanimate mirror know to mix up the horizontal left and right axis, but completely leave alone the vertical up and down axis? It's a fantastic question, right?
Well, they don't. Okay, let's dive right into this, because those two little words basically shatter a universally held misconception in an absolute instant. Mirrors do not actually reverse left and right. That horizontal flip, it's a complete illusion. To really understand what is actually happening in your bathroom every morning, we kind of have to temporarily throw out everything our brain is telling us and look at the hard science of light.
Which brings us to part 1, the physics of reflection.
Let's start by grounding ourselves in the actual mechanics of the universe here. The absolute key concept is something called specular reflection. Now, light itself is actually invisible until it bounces off something and hits our eyes. When it hits a rough, uneven surface like a brick wall or even a cloud, it scatters everywhere. That's called diffused reflection. But mirrors are incredibly smooth. They don't scatter light at all. Instead, they follow the fundamental law of reflection, which says the incoming angle of light is always exactly equal to the outgoing angle of reflection. Because of this perfect bounce, the mirror preserves the exact geometry of the light hitting it. It acts way more like a window into a parallel universe than a physical wall.
Let's walk through the exact step-by-step journey of this light. Imagine this. Step 1, light from the room hits your body. Step 2, it travels forward and bounces off the glass. Step 3, it reflects directly back to your eyes perfectly intact. And then step 4, your brain reconstructs those incoming light rays and this virtual image appears to stand behind the glass. Now, the absolute crucial thing to remember from this sequence is that light from your left hand travels straight to the left side of the mirror and bounces straight back. Light from your right hand travels to the right side of the mirror and straight back. Your mirror image is just a literal light print of you. So if left stays perfectly left and right stays perfectly right, what dimensional axis is the mirror actually messing with?
That leads us perfectly into section 2, flipping front to back.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core of our optical illusion. There is a stark contrast at play here between what we think is happening and what's actually happening. We perceive a left-right reversal every single day, but the optical reality, the actual physics, is that the mirror is reversing the z-axis. And the z-axis is your front-to-back depth. Imagine literally pushing your hand straight forward into a mirror. The reflection's hand pushes straight back out towards you. The mirror isn't flipping you sideways like a pancake. No, it's flipping you front to back, kind of like a rubber stamp, pressing firmly onto a piece of paper.
Richard Feynman had a remarkably vivid and honestly almost comical analogy for this exact phenomenon. He noted that we normally don't think of the idea that mathematically, quote, the person has been squashed and pushed backwards, forwards with his nose and his head. Think about it. When you stand in front of a mirror, your nose is the closest physical thing to the glass. So in the reflection, the nose is also closest to the glass. Your back is furthest away, so the reflection's back is furthest away. You have literally been turned inside out along the depth axis. So, okay, the physics are clear. The mirror only flips depth. But that leaves us with a glaring, massive question. Why on earth are all of us consistently fooled into thinking our left and right have been swapped?
Well, let's unpack that in section 3, the psychological brain trick.
This is the exact moment where physics hands the baton directly over to human psychology. You see, as humans, we are highly social, vertically oriented creatures. When we want to face someone in the real world, we naturally turn our bodies around a vertical axis. We stay on our feet and we spin around 180 degrees. So when you look at your reflection, your brain subconsciously performs this thing known as mental rotation. It imagines you stepping behind the glass and turning around to face yourself, exactly like you would to face a friend.
Because of this deeply ingrained social and mental habit, when we compare our physical body to the reflection facing us, our brain confidently tells us that our left and right sides must have swapped to get into that position. So the wild truth here, we are doing the flipping, not the mirror. Our brains are completely inventing a rotational step that simply didn't happen in the physics of the light. Think about it this way. What if humans were gymnasts who just navigated the world totally differently? What if instead of turning around horizontally to face someone, you always did a handstand and flipped head over heels over a horizontal axis? If your brain naturally imagined getting into the mirror by doing a front flip, you would look at the mirror and think it reversed up and down instead of left and right. The left-right flip is an entirely human psychological convention. It's all in our heads. Let's look at a real-world example in Section 4, the ambulance text illusion. Now that we know we're the ones tricking ourselves, let's look at how this front-to-back physics trick interacts with human perception to actually save lives on the road. You've probably noticed that the word ambulance is painted completely backwards, or literally inverted, on the front of emergency vehicles. But remember what we just learned. The rearview mirror in your car doesn't flip things left to right, it flips the Z-axis, front to back. Because the text is already physically painted facing backward on the truck, when your rearview mirror flips the depth axis, you, the driver, see the word ambulance perfectly oriented. You don't have to turn your head around to look out the back window, so your brain doesn't get confused by mental rotation. So the crucial point is, this creates an instant life-saving safety mechanism allowing for split-second recognition. Let's move on and see how this builds into something you can prove to yourself. It's a brilliant thought experiment you can easily try at home right now. Write the word science on a piece of transparent plastic or maybe even a glass window. Hold it up in front of the mirror, but keep the text facing you, so you are looking right through the transparency directly into the glass. You will see that the word in the mirror also reads perfectly normally from left to right. Why? Because you didn't physically turn the object around to face the mirror. Normally, when we hold up a book or a t-shirt to a mirror, we physically spin it 180 degrees so the ink faces the glass. We are the ones physically flipping it left to right. The mirror is literally just faithfully bouncing back the pre-flipped text that we pointed right at it. It is absolutely amazing to realize that one of the most familiar objects in our homes is just a completely passive reflector of light. And the so-called magic of the left-right swap is entirely manufactured right inside our own heads, all based on our social habits. Which brings us to a rather unsettling but deeply exciting question to close out this explainer. If our brains can completely invent a left-right reversal every single time we look in a mirror, effortlessly overriding the literal laws of physics just to make the world fit our expectations, what else in our daily physical environment are we fundamentally misinterpreting right now? It really makes you wonder about the limits of human perception. Keep questioning your reality, and I'll see you next time.